So it's good to see all these people here. I didn't expect that. We were only expecting maybe 15 people, and now all you people showed up. What am I going to do? Yeah, I'm not really good at that, but you started off. You guys can ask a few questions and maybe get me warmed up.
I'll give you a mini intro of the gallery. So I'm Snow. I'm the founder here, Snow Thorner, and this is the first justice-inspired gallery here in the region. And what that means to us is artists who have been impacted in some way by the criminal justice system. So they may be currently incarcerated, they may be formerly incarcerated, they may be family members who at one point in time had someone in prison. They also might be someone who was impacted by crime directly, or the family member of someone who was impacted by crime.
So yeah, Snow, when she first came in the shop, the first question she asked me kind of was, have you ever been incarcerated? And I said, I didn't know what to say.
You're still qualified.
Yeah. Got a lot of... Yeah. So yeah, ask a few questions if you have them.
Can I ask you, when did you physically start really producing
The metal work?
metal art? What age?
I think I started a little bit in high school, and then when I went to junior college, I had an art class, and I already had welding experiences, and I was taking mechanics and welding, mechanics and art together, and trying to figure out which one I liked. And then you'd come home after working on a car all day long, and your hands smelled and they were bad, and the girls said, ooh, you know. So I said, ooh, I don't need that. And so I switched right over to art. It didn't smell so bad.
If you don't mind, I'll tell you just.
Anybody else interested in the Native American side? There's many things and many stories to tell. My grandmother, there was a guy named Bill Brighton, I think that was his name, and he compiled this great big huge book, and it had stories, all the Indian stories, and it was told in the Karuk language, and then Grandma would translate and tell it in English. And so the story of how the coyote Panefich steals the fire, and there's neat illustrated books about that, and there's just many stories, you know.
Could you tell that story about how Coyote stole fire?
Kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a long story, but
It's okay.
it's a story that tells everyone how the things happened in life. It was just life stories. And so the coyote knows where the fire is. He's a wily and wise. And so he goes to Mount Shasta, where the fire is bubbling and burning, and the Yellow Jackets are the keepers of this fire. And so he tricks them, and he says, I'm going to do something else, and distracts them. And then he goes and steals it, and then he runs with the fire. And as he goes through all of the different villages from Mount Shasta to Karamin, is in downriver, that's the center of the earth for the Karuk people. He passes through the eagle and the bear and the fox and the turtle and the frog, and they all are, those are the representatives of all the different tribes and people. And finally, I think it's the frog who gets the last deal, and the Yellow Jackets are chasing them all the way, you know. and he dives into the water and holds his breath, because he can hold his breath longer than anybody else, and holds the fire in his mouth. And then when the Yellow Jackets leave, he comes out and gives the fire to the people. That's rough. That's rough. Short but rough and sweet.
Well done.
And let's see, another story would be the river is the center of the Karuk people, and it's a dangerous place. And so this tells everybody in the family, or the kids and people in general, to be afraid of the river, because it's a dangerous place. And so a young boy was in the lodge, and he decides to go hunting. He's like in his teens, and he goes up on the hill in the mountain behind Orleans, and he sees something in the trees, because the mountains are really steep and the trees are growing here, and he's up here, and he sees something in the tree, and he shoots into the tree, and he shoots Upsumkata. Upsumkata is the Indian word for the river snake. And so he hits the snake, and he goes, the water, the clouds came, and it just washed him down the hill. And it washed him all the way down into Chenitz Creek, and then Chenitz Creek, and it was going right into the river. And he reached out and he grabbed a root, and he pulled himself in. And his mom and dad and siblings were there, and he says, "Oh, I've seen Upsumkata." And their parents said, "Oh, that's bad. You're surely going to die." And so the only thing that can save you is you go into the lodge and you stay there for a long time, and maybe you'll survive. And, 15-year-old boys, they don't listen too good. And so one day he decided to go down by the river and watch, and he was standing there, and the river exploded, and all of the water came out, and all of the rocks came out, and they went onto the Chenitz Flat, onto the rock bar. And that's how the rock bars are formed. And the little boy was washed away. And there's another thing that we got to learn here at the end of this deal. Keep playing that drum. When you tell a story, there's another word, and the beat of our heart, the rhythm of the land, the rhythm of the trees, the rhythm of the wind. And when you finish telling a story, you go, "Ah!" And the word is apanakana. End of the story.
One more question, Ralph.
Yeah.
Are you working on any big projects right now, as far as some of your projects are just monumental, the Dragon and
Well, if I get them done, and I've got a couple of that are that I want to finish, but can't do it. When you get to a certain age, you just say, it hurts too much.
I don't know about that.
No, you wouldn't know about that. But I just finished one, and I'm getting feedback from it. The one I did in Hoopa. The Hoopa project was, they're fixing Highway 96 and putting up these curbs and rocks, river rocks in there, putting a post, and I get to do the artwork and put it on the post. And I did another basket down there, and they got it all in some regalia, jump dance regalia, the headdress and the deal down the back, and some big feathers. And then I thought, Hoopa is a pretty rough place too. Those art projects could be all shot full of holes. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna And I told the job coordinator, we ought to get the high school involved and get them to paint and help out and do some of the things. And they did. They screwed up a couple and brought them back to me, and so I had to fix them, but they're all put up now, and supposedly I haven't seen it personally, but little pictures every once in a while I get a picture. But
Wow.
so it should be a nice trip going down there. You don't have to run through Hoopa, would just run through and get out of there just for save your life.
Could you tell the story about how, the dragon's name is Penelope and how she came to be? Does anyone here not know who the dragon is? Yeah, the dragon is the, 12 foot?
Oh no, she's big.
No bigger
Bigger than that.
She's about 28, 29 feet.
I-5.
I-5.
Oh, okay, that's why. Right.
Yeah. Well, it got started just because somebody said, let's do a dragon, and so I had help, and so that's what usually motivates me to start something. But then it kind of got abandoned, and then the city manager had a daughter, and she was getting ready to go to college. Brian, the city manager, lives right over here, and anyway, Lexi needed a job for the summer, and so she came every day and helped me, and we pop riveted and welded and all these different things and put that together, and then it sat in my front yard for a long time, and then the city decided they'd want to buy it, so they paid me $3,000 for it.
Oh my gosh.
And we put it out there, and
What a bargain for the city.
yeah.
That's ridiculous. That should be one of the feathers on the wings.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever done other carving out of with wood or other materials?
Nothing really serious, but relief carving and things like that. I still do that. And the feathers, I've been doing those feathers for a long time.
I'm
And
pretty sure we got some at the Montague. There was a cell on a hill,
uh-huh,
and my daughter got some of your. It was a
a wooden.
log with the feathers stuck in the holes.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, every once in a while, things get turned around and recycled, and that's always interesting. I got a story about that. The McKinney fire. I sold a lot of things, fish and things, to people downriver, and they got burned out in the McKinney fire. And he brings this fish to me, and it is crisp. I mean, really cooked. I mean, I could have just broken it. It was that crisp. And so, but he didn't want me to do anything with it and fix it or anything like that. And I just engraved the McKinney fire and the date on it, and he hung it back on his wall.
Man,
Part of the permanence of metal art.
yeah.
Well, Ralph, you've created so many wonderful creatures, from the mundane to the fantastic. And now, hearing you tell about the stories of your ancestors, are any of these creatures particularly connected to the stories?
Yeah, sure. Because when I tell the story of Upsumkata, and it's a snake, it's a dragon, it's a mythical creature, and they all tie together. It's all, and every animal that's in there has a name, and I don't know all the names, but they always intrigued me to learn the Karuk name and then create the animal, a bear or a deer or whatever. And that's an inspiration to me.
So.
And
it all ties in.
all people are all related, and their art and all of their fantasies and all of their stories, they all tie together.
You talked about bear. I think we have a piece over there that is bear catching a fish.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
The Indian name for the bear, I think, is Witasoo. I'm not positive sure. I don't use the language enough to, I forget, so. But I got a little book, it's got pictures of them all in there, and I can refresh.
If you go down to the Karuk Lodge, can you actually comprehend or speak to them in the language still today?
No.
No, yeah.
But the kids can. Kids are good at it. I mean, they're teaching it every day, and they're practicing it every day. But
It's a great language program.
yeah,
Not going yet.
I can keep up with them sometimes, you know, and say Ayuki, Wariev, Imomim, hello, how are you? I'm fine, or whatever kind of a thing, you know. But that's about as far as I go.
Order a steak and a beer?
Yeah, you know, that didn't work. Although there's another story about that. There's a guy, a Sioux, I think, one of the Sioux nations, and he has made a restaurant. I mean, he liked cooking, and so he'd go to Mexico, he'd do this. And so now there is a chain of restaurants that is doing indigenous food. It's kind of spreading across the United States.
Oh, cool.
Great. Who gets to try that?
You will if you get if he gets here. I mean, but you might have to go a little further east. And you don't know what you're going to be eating. You know, maybe possum or something else. Acorn soup.
About,
Salmon, if we can fix the river again.
Yeah, well, I believe that the fish are pretty smart, and they're gonna hide up in the creeks, just like the Indians did in the old days. They would hide away from the white man, and they survived. And the Karuk people had many places to hide, and that's what all the outlaws are doing today. They're hiding up those same creeks, and the fish are doing the same thing. And it's going to take a year, and one season is going to make a big difference, and then 2 seasons are going to be bigger and better. It's only going to be better for the river and for the people.
Do you know any stories of celestial ancestors?
No.
Coming down from the stars?
I'd be making it up.
We wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, I know.
How about your square drum?
How about my square drum?
Why is it
Oh, I'll tell you a story about
square?
why is the drum square. You tell that story. I made this drum, or I helped make it, because some of the when we were doing the youth and elders conferences, the kids wanted to learn how to make it, but one of the Conrad boys, he came to me afterwards, and he was kind of shy, and he said, I don't want my drum, I want you to buy it. And I said, well, what do you want to sell your drum for? You just made it. And he said, no, it's not the right time for me, and so I bought his drum. And I've been using it ever since. I'm not going to get rid of it either.
We get attached to our drums.
Yeah, we do.
Become part of you.
Yeah, the kids are a really important part of my doing what I do too, because they come and they learn. They can learn everything like in 5 minutes, and then they're off doing their own thing. But I must have mentored hundreds of kids doing their senior projects and other art projects, and some of them would last 5 minutes. Like, the faster it is, the younger they are, the faster you have to do it to teach them. And then those rocks were always a wonderful thing. You know, they could draw and sketch on that thing, and you stick it on a rock, and then they'd come back the next day or whenever and peel off that stuff. And they were just fascinated by that, the rock art.
I remember how kind and willing you were to
Well-
help young people do things with those floats, but I know that you were involved in a lot of other things too.
Eh,
And I
you know,
want to
that's just,
express my appreciation for that.
well, thanks. Yep, kids are a pretty important part of our life, and we like them to come around and bug us, but only for a short time. So, and that's the end of the story. Apanakana. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
You're
There is
welcome.
a,
Thank you.